arigato, Mr. Roboto.
Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, 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 geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to another all-new edition of Geek to Me Radio. It's a star-studded show today as we are joined by Patrick Hinds and Gillian Pensavalle talking about their True Crime Obsessed podcast. Then we talk with actor Dash Williams about his roles. All that and more. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
If you're driving around the greater St. Louis area, hearing this on 105.3 FM and 1380 AM, thank you very much for tuning in. If you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form on Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, Podomatic, or wherever you get your podcast, thank you very much for finding us there. And if you're streaming this out there in the World Wide Web right now, thank you for finding us there as well. We've got two great guests on deck. Patrick Hinds, who does a lot of podcasting, very, very talented individual. And of course, his co-star on the True Crimes podcast, Gillian Pensavalle, who started the Hamilcast, among other projects. We've got a great interview with the two of them right now. We're joined now by Patrick Hinds and Gillian Pensavalle from the True Crime Obsessed podcast. Both of you, thanks very much for being on the show. I listened to a couple episodes, and I'm thinking I need a co-host. You guys are having way too much fun.
Oh, thanks for checking us out.
Yeah, and thanks for having us.
No problem. I'm glad to have you. I liked the last one I listened to, I guess, was the Pink Panthers, which didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. That was a very, I love what you guys do and the format you presented in. It just, I want to have a glass of wine and like hang out with the two of you and discuss crime stuff.
Oh, well, I mean, we're doing our job then. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Can you go and put that on iTunes, please, in our iTunes reviews? That's amazing.
Yeah, if you're listening to us sober, you're kind of not doing it the right way.
Yeah, sorry about that.
There are a lot of, obviously, as you guys know, everybody's got a podcast these days, and to keep it fresh, to keep it new, to kind of raise it above the crowd is not always easy, and you guys are killing it, metaphorically speaking.
Aw. Thank you so much. Thanks. You know, we're funny because we sort of like are making a very different podcast than we thought we were going to make. Like we went into this thinking we were going to make a sort of straightforward, boring, intentionally like highbrow sort of true crime thing.
Well, that's what you thought. I had a very different idea. This is more what I was thinking.
Yeah, well, and the thing was like Gillian and I didn't know each other that well, so I didn't know that Gillian was so brilliantly funny and that like I was going to find everything she said hilarious.
Well, that part I didn't think. I just thought we were going to have a little more fun with it, not be so serious.
And anyway, here we are.
And so you both have had extensive backgrounds and other stuff. How did the two of you end up getting together and working on this project together?
Like most true crime podcasts, Broadway.
Right.
So, Patrick, you want to tell your podcast history and then I'll tell mine?
Yeah, so I started making a Broadway-themed podcast like forever and ever ago, like in 2010 or something. And it was one of the first Broadway podcasts. And then, you know, the crop of Broadway podcasts started to increase. And Gillian popped up making this brilliant Broadway podcast. And we just sort of met that way.
Yeah, so I do a podcast about Hamilton called The Hamilcast, and Patrick reached out. I've been doing it for 3.5 years now, which is crazy.
Wow.
And Patrick reached out right away just saying, like, hi, let's be friends. Like, we make Broadway podcasts. Yay, let's be friends. And then we just sort of saw each other around the scene, like at BroadwayCon and stuff like that. And then you were having me on your panels, and then we just became friends. And that went from, like, the con circuit, I guess, to just, like, happy hour. And we were just always finding ourselves saying, like, what are you doing right now? Do you happen to be near Midtown? Could you get to Midtown?
to a bar in Midtown.
Are you thirsty? Like, you want to just hang? And then, like, our conversations just always kind of went to, like, oh, yeah, that case is crazy. Like, suddenly we were just talking about true crime. And then at first we were going to solve the Zodiac.
Still gonna do it. Still on the list of things to do.
Yeah. And so then I like went to the library. I was super Robert Graysmith about it. I made a creepy logo like with the Zodiac letters. It was really, and then we were just like, oh, this is gonna be a lot of work, isn't it? There are definitely people who are more qualified than us to solve the Zodiac case. So we'll leave that to them. And then Pat, you tell them about your idea that you had for like the segments or whatever.
Yeah, it was funny. Like we sort of just like, it's so weird to, I'm 41 now, so it's very strange to like meet a new person at this age and be like, I think I'm a little bit in love with you. And so we were just like sitting at bars, like knees touching, talking about true crime. And then I had this idea of making, like I said, this sort of highbrow, like, 3 segments, and one was going to be an interview segment, and one would be like a recap segment where we talk about like a true crime documentary, and then another one, and then we sat down to record it, and we got to the recap part, and Gillian was just making me laugh so hard, and I was like looking away from the microphone, trying not to laugh in the microphone, and then it just sort of dawned on me. I was like, I think this is the podcast.
This is it. And it's funny because that first episode we did, it's a documentary called The Imposter, and our 100th episode is coming up, and we're going to redo it in this crazy mess that we've created, like this style now. So it's going to be, we're not going to listen to that episode before we record, but I'm almost scared to go back and listen to our first episode.
Yeah, we're just going to redo, when we recorded our original recap of The Imposter, it was like very sort of like straightforward and not very funny, and looking at like the angles of the shots.
Yeah, you were like, Gillian, what do you think about the cinematography in this scene? And I'm like, the what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. It's fine, I guess, but can you believe they fell for it? Like,
right.
What the hell?
So yeah, when we redo it for our 100th episode, it's going to be very, very different.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And I'm excited about another one you guys are coming up working on, the Sam Cooke one, which I know, Jillian, I saw you're a karaoke enthusiast. Sam Cooke's Cupid is one of my go-to karaoke songs.
That's amazing. You're much braver than I am to do Sam Cooke. Yeah, that documentary is excellent. We just recorded that, and he's amazing. So it was we loved covering that. It's all tragic. It's hard to say we loved covering it.
It's tragic, but it's also crazy. Like, I didn't know anything about his murder, and it was. I mean, the circumstances of the murder are crazy. At one point, one woman calls another woman a pimp S.
Yeah, it's. But Patrick also learned a lot about like the music in the world and like the history of rock and roll. And I'm like, girl, where have you been all this time?
Where I have been is Lilith Fair. The only music I know is like Paula Cole and the Indigo Girls. So
right.
I was very excited to have my horizons broadened.
Yes.
And it's so cool that the podcast, like you said, has evolved, because you went in thinking it was going to be one way. And I love that you embraced it and took it in this direction, which has proved to be very popular. So that's great.
Yeah, it's kind of a surprise to us every week. We're like, we've really watched our downloads grow and grow and grow. And, we have this thriving Facebook group that was started by a listener. And now we've got like true crime obsessed, like fan chapters all over the country.
Yeah, it's really amazing. People are becoming friends, and it's beautiful to watch, and that's genuine. That's not a cheesy line. Like, it may sound cheesy, but I mean it.
And no, it's true, and we're very lucky. We get to do live shows all over the country, and people actually come to them.
Yeah, they want to like talk to us after. It's crazy. I'm like, you guys know, like, you can leave if you want. We did it all. If you want to come and hang, that's great.
Yeah.
But it's crazy that people actually want to talk to us.
And we're lucky that we just are still having such a good time doing it,
Yeah.
Very #grateful.
Yeah, there you go. Blessed.
Could never tell that you're having a good time from listening to the two of you on the podcast.
Good, then we're doing our jobs.
Yep.
And speaking of the live appearances, I think you've got one coming up in September and one in October, correct?
You are so sweet to know that.
Yes.
I'm a little bit in love with you.
Yes.
Yeah, in September, we've been invited to do the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Toronto. So we're going to be there in September. And then in October, we have a show at the Bell House in Brooklyn, which is where like actual fancy podcasts do their live shows. And we're teaming up with the guys from the Missing Maura Murray podcast and Maggie Freeling from the Oxygen, The Disappearance of Maura Murray series, and we're doing a whole live show all about Maura Murray, and we're gonna like drink, and we're gonna make fun of them, and we're gonna actually try to get some answers.
Yeah, we're gonna make fun of Lance and Tim and Maggie.
Yeah, not Maura. She's
yeah.
off limits. We're not making fun of her.
No, absolutely not. That because that's the thing too for people who are just like, who are these two loud, obnoxious people? When we are laughing, it's never. We consider ourselves victim advocates. It's never about like the tragedy or victim blaming or whatever. But like the Oxygen show is ridiculous, and like the music and the script that poor Maggie had to read. So that's what we're gonna say. Like, I mean, my God. So that's what we're gonna make fun of.
We always say that our live shows are sort of like a cocktail party where you get to come and like hang out with us and watch us like make fun of, you know, like cop. Oh, can I didn't mean to swear. Oh God, am I allowed to swear?
Luckily, this is pre-recorded, so Joey, make a note. We'll edit that part out.
But I was gonna say, our live shows are like where you can come and hang with us and drink with us and like watch us make fun of like, you know, bad cops or like dirty prosecutors.
Yeah, or like murderers.
Or murderers, that too.
Rapists.
They are on limits.
Yes, absolutely.
As it should be. And with your topics, how do the two of you kind of spitball one to pick? Did like each one of you take it like, hey, this week I want to do this one, and the next week Patrick says I want to do this one? How do you guys approach getting the topic for each show?
And we're going to get the answer to that question from Patrick and Jillian right after this, so stand by.
They're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. They're all together rookie, the Addams Family. Their house is a...
Hi there, this is Tara Strong, also known as Harley Quinn, or Raven, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
We are back. This segment brought to you by Marcus Theaters. MarcusTheaters.com is the website. Just saw Ready or Not at the Ronnie's Cinema. Love the movie, and part of the movie-going experience is the atmosphere in which you see it. And we had those big, nice, comfy chairs to recline back in. The huge screens which you see these movies nowadays with the great surround sound. Marcus Theaters has come in, and they've really changed the way you see movies in St. Louis and elsewhere. Marcus Theaters is a top-tier theater. If you're going to go see Angel Has Fallen, the new Gerard Butler movie, or maybe you want to see some of the Enchanted Tales film series like Moana, going on September 6th through the 8th, Cinderella, the original cartoon, September 13th through the 15th, Peter Pan, September 20th through the 22nd. They've got some Labor Day specials as well. Summer, they've got the Goonies and Jurassic Park. $6 admission for the Labor Day Summer Classics for Labor Day weekend. And if you haven't gotten your tickets to Downton Abbey yet, I suggest you do it at a Marcus Theaters. Carson the Butler would expect nothing less. You can check out the website marcustheaters.com to get the ticket information, find out the location closest to you, check out all the food and drink there are, specials. They've got contests. You can even buy gift cards for friends. We're coming up to, you're going into the new school year. Maybe you want to send your college kids off with some gift cards so they can go see some movies at a nice theater. MarcusTheaters.com is the website where you can do all of this. Check out the Marcus Theaters and the Movie Tavern locations closest to you, MarcusTheaters.com. We are joined by Patrick Hinds and Gillian Pensavalle talking all about their True Crime Obsessed podcast. And before we went to break, I was asking them how exactly they pick the topics that they choose for each upcoming episode.
Well, it's again with the evolution and evolving. Now we get so many requests from our listeners.
Yeah.
So, or if something new is coming out or something like that. But usually we try to. I mean, really, we try to like not do too many of one, I guess, theme in a way to say it. So it's like if like two disappearing kids and we can't handle it anymore, and it's like our mental health is suffering, we're like, let's do a bank heist with diamonds. Or like, let's mix it up with a cult, or just, you know, we try to not do like, this has been a really dark month, like let's try to make it where like no one gets hurt in something, at least.
Yeah, and we've tried things that have failed. Like last year at Halloween, we were like, you know, we're gonna do 6 in a row that are all like spooky, ghosty, haunted housey, and our listeners were like, I swear to God, if you do one more of these, I'm unsubscribing and never listening to you again.
It was a really bad idea. By the end of it, I was like, I am done.
I know.
I'm done with all of this.
On our Patreon feed, so we have we do a bonus episode a month on Patreon, and we did 20 episodes of Making a Murderer. 20 episodes.
Yeah, but they wanted, that's the thing, like listeners wanted to hear our take on Making a Murderer. And I'm back to the Halloween thing. It sucks because I love Halloween so much, and I love all that spooky witchy stuff, and I just, because there's no real good documentaries about it, you know?
It's true. There was one. We found one. It was called Hell House, and it was about like
crazy.
Those crazy like haunted houses. But yeah,
that basically like about like super fundamentalist religious people telling you like how you're a horrible person if you have sex or something.
Right.
So the Patreon feed, if you talk a little about that, has that driven a lot of your content, or do you still just kind of take that and kind of incorporate it into your plan going forward each month?
Yeah, on our podcast, we recap true crime documentaries. And so it started out because Gillian and I just had like a handful of true crime documentaries we loved that we wanted to talk about. But then we started getting people being like, do the Jinx, do the Staircase, do Making a Murderer, do the Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. And we're like, well, those are all like 5 or 20 or 12 episodes. Like, how are we possibly going to do that? And when we decided that we were going to make bonus content, we're like, oh, we'll do it there. So on our regular feed, we do straight up documentaries, and then on our bonus feed is where we do, like on our Patreon feed is where we do the series. So it's like, Making a Murderer, Serial Season 1, The Staircase, Lorena, The Disappearance of Madeleine McCann, so many that we just wouldn't have been able to do on our regular feed because they're just, I don't think like listeners on the regular feed will stick with us through 12 episodes of whatever.
20, yeah. And the thing is, it's the same format, so you're getting 2 episodes a week from us at the very least.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And we should tell people, if you're interested, if you're listening to this and you want to check out more, it's truecrimeobsessed.com for the website. I assume there's Patreon links there and everything like that as well, yeah?
Yep, there absolutely is. You can follow us on Twitter at truecrimeobsess, no ED, and on Instagram at True Crime Obsessed Podcast, where I do like constant crazy Insta stories all day, every day.
Constantly.
We'll start with Patrick. What's the favorite episode you guys have done so far, Patrick?
The one I'm coming back to lately is called Grizzly Man. It's about a guy who like moves to the Alaskan outback to live with the grizzly bears, and they eventually just eat him. And he was out there for like 12 summers or whatever, and on like the 12th summer, the bears were like, "We've had enough of you. It's dinner time."
Yeah, and it's true crime because it was illegal for him to be there. It was like protected land by the government. It was protected by the government, so the bears were not in any trouble, but he thought they were, so he was just illegally squatting there for 6 months at a time, and finally the bears just had it.
Yeah, and I just as a bear advocate, we like to remind people that bears can't murder people; they can only have dinner.
Yeah, bear's gonna bear. I don't know. I don't really know what the issue is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a basic case of natural selection then, if he was that stupid.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sad that he died, and his girlfriend died too. But it
must have been. It's a tragic. It's horrible that it happened, but it also really could have been avoided.
I was gonna say very, very avoidable.
It's super avoidable.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. And Gillian, what about you? Do you have a favorite episode that you've done so far?
Oh, I really enjoyed covering the 7-5, which was about corrupt cops over in Brooklyn and Queens, and it's just, I'm a New Yorker, so I like the New York-based thing, and these cops were they were such stereotypes, and it was just so fun. That was one where it was kind of a little break, like, okay, the cops were the best, like, we know where we stand on this.
Totally.
It's not like it doesn't end on an ellipsis where it's like, I don't know what happened to her. Like, we have all the answers. We know who the bad guys are. They're ridiculous. They sound ridiculous. It was very easy to live in that space for a while.
Can you give them a taste of your cop's Queens accent?
See, when you put me on the spot, it's hard because I never know what to say. Well, they were talking about like this is not one of the bad cops, but they talk about like some of the weapons that were being used at the time. And this one guy is like, so they open up the trunk and out comes the street sweeper, and bada bing, bada boom. There's a gunfight in the street. What do you want to do? So it was a lot of that.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah. See, I feel like I'm in Queens right now. That was great. I love it.
Oh, great.
So when you guys aren't doing the podcast, obviously you both have a lot going on. What do you guys watch? What do you kind of unwind with? What do you geek out about when you're not working on one of your several podcasts that each of you do?
If I'm like, the new show that I'm kind of obsessed with is Succession. Oh my God, Brian Cox is amazing. But just to like chill, usually I'll go back to like Mad Men or The Office. If I need to really turn my brain off a little bit after something horrible, I'll go back to like an old Standby, because I think if I'm too fried from watching something, because we take like a lot of notes and we take it seriously, so it takes us hours each to watch them, and a lot of it's pretty heavy, so when I'm just exhausted, I feel like I've been at school all day, like I'm so tired. I'll just put on something that I know, like my brain can't really handle anything new right now, like new characters to fall in love with at the moment. Just like that episode of Mad Men, Shut the Door, Have a Seat, that's a good one. Season 4 The Office, great, perfect. Something like that.
And Patrick?
For me, so I have a 5.5-year-old, and so I don't get a lot of free time outside of the office. I will tell you that I'm developing a podcast network, so we've got more true crime obsessed style podcasts coming down the pipe. Is that coming down the pike?
Pike with
coming
a K,
down the
I
pike.
believe. Yeah.
So when I'm not working on that stuff, right now we're watching Schitt's Creek, and I totally love it.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
We definitely go back to.
Yeah,
it's
so good.
so good.
And who told you to watch it?
Gillian Pensavalle
There
told
you
me
go.
to watch it.
There you go.
And we definitely love 30 Rock. Anything
Parks
Tina
and
Fey,
Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love the comedy gals.
Yeah, Schitt's Creek is absolutely hysterical. I can't get enough of that one. And I saw, Jillian, you're watching Dairy Girls, yeah?
Oh, Dairy Girls is the best. I can't believe I forgot it. Yes, Dairy Girls. Catch yourself on. Oh, it's the best. It's the best. I love it. Everyone go watch Dairy Girls.
I just found that one, and I blew through the first season. I'm about 2 episodes into the second, and they're so short. But it very much reminded me of another British show called The In-Betweeners. It's almost like a female Irish In-Betweeners, if you've seen In-Betweeners.
Yes, that's actually. I read an article with Lisa McGee, the creator, and she said that's exactly it. It's like a female-driven In-Betweeners. So you nailed it.
And I am very jealous also of your banner picture on your Twitter page. I stalked you both a little bit. Jillian, you've got a picture with Lin-Manuel Miranda. Love him in Hamilton, but of course, he's Gizmo Duck now in the new DuckTales. So Gizmo Duck, one of my favorite characters. So now I have to meet him to have him sign my Gizmo Duck figure.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that was crazy. He came over to record the Hamilcast, and that was pretty nuts.
It's crazy. It's like another thing that Jillian and I always bonded over. We have this like weird Lin-Manuel Miranda connection.
Yeah.
Where like when I first moved to New York, in 2000, I had a friend who knew Tommy Kail, who is like the Hamilton director. But back then he and Lin were working together in the Heights, and I was trying to be a writer, and my friend was like, "Hey, you should come meet this kid Lin. He's working on a new hip hop musical. You should interview him." So then I became literally the first person to ever interview Lin-Manuel Miranda for anything, and Lin is the one who says that. Like, that's not coming from me, that's coming from him.
Yeah, he was like still substitute teaching at the time, and like on his lunch break or whatever, you guys hung out.
And then all these years later, Jillian started making the Hamilcast, so we've got this like super deep Lin-Manuel Miranda connection.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts.
See, I think instead of 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon, we need a new game, 5 degrees of Lin-Manuel. So we'll just put it out.
Look, it's true, and Patrick and I have kind of played it. Like it is very true. He's the busiest person on the planet. He has 18 projects. Like everyone is connected to him in some way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He's the new one for sure.
Well, it's been absolutely fabulous talking to you. I love the energy. I love what the two of you are doing. Once again, it's at Patrick Hinds on Twitter, at Jillian with a G on Twitter for Jillian. Make sure you check out at True Crime Obsess on Twitter. The website, once again, truecrimeobsessed.com. Patrick and Jillian, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank
you so much for having us. This has been so much fun.
Can I do one plug for my husband's podcast? Because he followed you today, and you followed him back and like started liking all his posts. It's Ted and Michael read sketches into microphones if you want like really weird comedy. And Werner Herzog is in it too, like an impression of him. So
I was like, not the real Werner.
No. But speaking of Grizzly Man, yeah.
Very cool. Yes, thank you very much for that. And I will watch with great anticipation for your 100th episode.
Oh, yeah, it'll be a good one.
Right around the corner.
Yep, it'll be fun.
Very cool. Thanks again so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great talking to you.
Fantastic group. Again, if you haven't checked it out, at True Crime Obsessed on Twitter, truecrimeobsessed.com for the website. We're going to take a quick break, come right back talking with actor Dash Williams after this, so stand by.
Hi, this is David Mazouz, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
We are back. David Mazouz just finished up Gotham. Another young, talented actor we had a chance to sit down and talk with was Dash Williams. You'll recognize him from a few different projects, and here's our conversation with him.
We're joined now by up-and-comer Dash Williams, making a huge splash already with his role on Fresh Off the Boat, and now in the brand new series on FX, Perpetual Grace LTD. Dash, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Doing well. Absolutely. Anytime. It's amazing when I look over the stuff you've already done. You're 14 years old. You're taking acting classes, but I can't imagine what they're teaching in the acting class can compare to the real world experience you're getting on these shows like Fresh Off the Boat, and then working alongside these incredible stars on Perpetual Grace LTD. Talk a little bit about, I guess, what it's like for you, your age, being as new as you are to the business per se, to be working on a series like this.
It's really great, and I've been thinking about it a little bit, and it's like, if you take any of the people in the cast, like, they're each independently, like, regarded as, like, the nicest person in Hollywood. Like Ben Kingsley, Jimmy Simpson, Jackie Weaver, like, literally the nicest people ever, and they're also amazing actors, and I'm just really lucky I get to work with them. But I've basically been acting my whole life, so it's just kind of cool to be doing something with this many amazing people in it.
And with everything you've done at the level you're at now, it's got to be very exciting, because where you are in your career, looking at who you're working with, it must feel to you like the sky's the limit from here. You've already got this level where a lot of actors, grind it out and they keep going, but you're already at a level that many would find envious. So what is what's your ultimate goal? Where do you want to see yourself? What's like a dream project, or who would you like to work with in Hollywood that you've not yet had the chance to?
I'm not really sure yet, because, I mean, you can't really plan this kind of thing, because it always just ends up something new happening to you that you could have never predicted. But our creator for Perpetual Grace Limited, Steve Conrad, I'll do anything with him. He's like, he did Patriot on Amazon Prime. He's like a genius, and I'll just do anything with him. And like literally everybody on the show.
And I love your background in comedy, too. You're a member of the Upright Citizens Brigade's first ever teen class. I can't ever understate enough the amount of that improv comes in handy. I think like all actors should be required to take improv, because it's such a huge key. Both it makes you a better actor and it just serves you in life. Talk a little bit about, if you could, your work with comedy, what you like best about it, what you find most rewarding.
Yeah, I've been doing improv since I was 7, I think. And like you said, I was part of the first teen class at UCB. I found improv to be probably the most important thing that I've done in terms of acting. It's just like, you really don't understand it until you haven't done improv and acted, and then after you have done it, it makes it so much easier. Just like not even having to improvise, but just being able to react quickly to things. It just makes your life a lot better. And it definitely gives you a lot of confidence, which is something that some kid actors struggle with because you're kids. But I think improv is definitely the most helpful thing you can do.
And with your comedic background and your improv groundings, you were on Fresh Off the Boat. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was only supposed to be like a character for one episode, and you went on to do nearly 40 episodes. That's got to be, I would think, at a certain level, a testament to your comedic timing and your ability to kind of handle that kind of role. What was that like to come in for something supposed to be a one-off and then to get picked back up for that many episodes?
Yeah, it was kind of exciting. I think I was on the first season. The first season was only like half of the season long. It was like 12 or 13 episodes, however long the season is. And I was on the 6th episode for like a pretty small part. And then they brought me back for the finale of that season. So I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. And then it got renewed for a full second season. And they called me and they were like, hey, we want you for episodes 1, 2, and 4. And I was like, oh. And then it just ended up kind of being a very, very long-term thing. And we're going into season 6 now, which is very exciting.
That's got to be a great feeling to be working on so many fantastic projects. And I know you've gotten a lot of critical acclaim already for the role you were playing Glenn Perdue in Perpetual Grace LTD. Hollywood Reporter, The Decider, Roger Ebert has been singing the praises, both of you and of this show. It's a dark show per se. There's definitely a darkness to it, but coming from the comedic background, obviously as an actor you have to have a lot of tools in your bag. How do you find the I don't want to say the transition, but the going into a series like this after coming off fresh off the boat and a comedy background, what is the adjustment that you take in order to kind of get into this role?
I think, my parts of the show are probably the more comedic side of things. It's still definitely very dark. But like most of my scenes are with Jimmy Simpson, who I love. And I kind of just got there on the first day, and I was just like paying attention to what he was doing, just to kind of like set the pace of everything. Because the pace of the writing in the show is like very important. So I was just kind of trying to make sure I was matching like tone with him at the very least. That was basically just kind of my thing the first couple of days, and then after that I felt like I kind of had a grip on it.
And I know we've all heard the stories of the younger stars back in the 70s and 80s, how there's that, I don't want to say stigma, but there's a certain aura that have these young stars. It can only be even harder, I would imagine, in today's world of the digital media. Everything's online, the social media. How do you unplug? How do you handle the spotlight that's on you with all the digital platforms and everything there are? And how do you kind of break away from that?
I have a fairly sized following on social media, but the main thing I care about when I'm on social media is talking to people I actually respect in the industry and all of that. So that's just been my kind of main thing. One of the head writers on Conan, Brian Stack, for 20 years, he I think moved to Colbert now. He's in Colbert. But he followed me on Twitter, and he's he doesn't have that many followers, and not a ton of people know who he is. But I was so excited that this person I really followed me on Twitter. And that's kind of what I'm looking for when I use Twitter, is that kind of thing.
So you mentioned before the comedy background is very important, and you've got that strong comedic background, all the stuff you've done. And is that kind of the direction you want your career? Because obviously, you mentioned earlier, whatever happens, you can't really plan for it. But to an extent, are you kind of seeing yourself more gravitating towards wanting to go down that comedic route?
I think I do, but I also think it's not exclusive. I think I can do both things. And I think that I like doing drama, and I really also like doing comedy. And I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. And I think being good at one helps the other. And that's what I've seen. Because, between Fresh Off the Boat and Perpetual Grace, that's when I started doing, a lot of improv. And I think I definitely was a lot better for it. And even though Perpetual Grace is pretty dramatic at some points and dark, I think it still helps.
And I know for me, I'm quite a bit older than you. My comedic range, I love a little bit of everything, all the way from comedians like Stephen Wright, Jerry Seinfeld, going all the way back to the Marx Brothers. The Marx Brothers continue to crack me up. Who are some of your comedic inspirations, and who do you find extremely funny?
We're going to get the answer to that question and wrap up our conversation with Dash Williams right after this, so stand by.
Fresh off the boat, you can tell the way I wear my clothes, and I'm fresher than a tweet from a rock. Fresh off the boat, you can tell the way I wear my gold, that I shine anywhere around the globe. Fresh off the boat.
Hi, this is Jonathan Katz, and you are listening to Geek to Me Radio. If you recognize my voice, it's probably from Dr. Katz, Professional Therapist, unless I was standing behind you at CVS.
One of my very early guests, Jonathan Katz. Forgot all about that one. That's a great liner. And, of course, a great comedian and writer in his own right. We were talking comedy with my current guest, Dash Williams.
Who are some of your comedic inspirations, and who do you find extremely funny?
So I'm a really big fan of British comedy.
Yes.
And sort of not super modern British comedy. So Stephen Fry, Hugh Laurie, they had a sketch show in the UK. That's my favorite sketch show. In the 80s, I think it was. And then Mitchell and Webb. This will only mean something to a very few number of people. And then more like recently, there's this British comedian that I really like named James Acaster. He was the first British comedian to have more than one Netflix special. He made like 4 one-hour Netflix specials, and they're all like interconnected. It's kind of crazy. And then also Bo Burnham, who isn't really doing comedy anymore, but I really love him.
Yeah, his comedy when he was doing it was brilliant. Yeah, a lot of good stuff from Bo Burnham.
I kind of missed out on that era, but
well, that's the
I'm
great
never
thing.
going to be able to see him live, and it's really annoying me.
It's all online. Everything I have my Marx Brothers DVDs, and Ricky Gervais has all his stuff up, so it's all online. That's the great thing about these days.
Yeah.
And is there anything you can tell us, for those of us who are watching the show Perpetual Grace LTD on Epix, how far along have you gotten in the filming, and what can you give us, without getting you into trouble, what can you tell us about the series going forward and your role in the series?
I'm not really sure I can tell you much. We finished shooting, I think, in March, so before any of it started actually airing.
Okay.
So, yeah, we've been done for a long time. I think the next episode's episode 5. And I can't really say what happens.
Okay.
I would like to. And also, you definitely, would not believe me, so... I think my character, you start to see more of his relationship with Jimmy Simpson's character, and I think that gets really interesting.
Well, we'll be excited to continue to watch how it all plays out. We can't wait to see what more we'll get from you in the future, too. Dash Williams, thanks very much for your time today. It's been a blast talking to you.
Thank you.
Thanks once again to Dash Williams. And I want to thank our premier sponsor, Historic St. Charles. You want to check out the website, discoverstcharles.com, for all the cool things there are to see and do. It's a little rainy now, but it's been some really nice weather. So if you're in the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area, it's a good time to go check out Historic St. Charles. Maybe take a bike ride up and down the Katy Trail. The Missouri River has gone back into its banks a little bit, so you can check out Frontier Park. Lots of fun things to do if you're a foodie. We just went out there and hit Kilwins this weekend. The ice cream at Kilwins is amazing, right there on Main Street. If you're from out of town, if you're not in the area, it's a great place to come stay, have a nice, relaxing weekend. A lot of places, from the little bed and breakfast we always like to point out, all the way to hotels with world-class amenities, depending on your level of comfort or what it is you're looking to do. Lots of food, lots of places to see, lots of cool shopping, all sorts of things. There's literally something for everyone. Check out the website to plan your trip. Legends and Lanterns for Halloween right around the corner. It's a big event that they've extended to 3 weekends now in October, and that's a lot of fun, especially if you're a Halloween buff like I am. DiscoverStCharles.com is the website, and this show would not have been possible these past 3 years without the good people at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Joe Ward, Elizabeth Phelps, and all the people there who make it possible for them to advertise on Geek to Me Radio. So thank you to all them. Thank you to St. Charles for all their hospitality throughout the years. They just celebrated their 250th anniversary, and there's more to see in the next 250 years. So check them out, DiscoverStCharles.com. We're going to come back and wrap things up right after this, so stand by.
Pinky and the Brain, yes, Pinky and the Brain. One is a genius, the other's insane.
Hey, this is John Heater. I played Napoleon Dynamite and other unforgettable characters, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio. I guess it's a pretty good station. I've never heard it or anything.
And we're back wrapping it up. We had a great time at Tenacious Eats last night. Napoleon Dynamite's 15th anniversary. We saw the movie. We had gourmet tots, fantastic steak, and all sorts of cool things. Chef Liz of Tenacious Eats has another event coming up for Cinema St. Louis on the 14th of September. You can check out the Cinema St. Louis website for Dinner Rush. Get your tickets now for that event. Ready or Not is in theaters, and I know Joey, my producer, has also seen Ready or Not, and we were just kind of discussing it. You enjoyed it overall, though, yeah?
I did enjoy it. The funniest thing that came out of it is both me and my brother have been with our girlfriends for 10 years, and we're not married. And then as soon as it was over, he said, and that's why we can't get married. Our family has a weird tradition where we have to murder you if it happens. So it's in their best interest that we don't get married ever. Good. Did they accept that as an acceptable answer? And they're like, oh, we understand now. Of course, yes. Good. All right, I'm glad that worked out. Best part of the whole movie. I got out of having to pay for a, $20,000 wedding? I don't know how much they are. At least. They're a lot. I mean, you can do them on the cheap. You can probably just elope. I think if you guys have been together 10 years, it might be common law by now. I don't know. Oh, no. There's paperwork involved when you ever say law. Yeah, you might have to sign stuff. I don't know. Okay. But yeah, we enjoyed the movie. Obviously, Marcus Theaters were where I went and saw that one. But I liked it. I originally saw the previews and thought it was going to be a straight-up horror movie. But it was a lot more comedic and not very scary, just suspenseful. Great suspense moments, a lot of tension as they're trying to hunt down the newlywed bride and kill her to keep their board game dynasty's family pact with the devil in order to keep them rich and in power. But it was great. It had great performances. I liked it. The ending was over the top, but it needed to go there, I think, to have a button on the movie to end it with. So I liked it overall. Yeah, I liked how much they went for the gore. There's one scene where she's in this pit that's like disturbing. Like how disgusting they made that scene was incredible. Yeah. Yeah, that was, I mean, it's a good mix. I think I described it as a little bit of Cabin in the Woods with a little bit of War of the Roses thrown in for the dark comedy elements, but I did enjoy it. It never took itself too seriously. I think the actors were all just right. The Aunt Helene, she was frightening, though. She was like Tim Burton character. That was exactly. It's exactly right. Different level than the rest of the actors, almost. Yeah. Yeah. It was very good, though. I enjoyed it quite a bit. That's my go to the box office to see movie for the weekend. I want to say the website, geektomeradio.com. There's links to my blog post, and that's the latest review I just did. If you'd like to read my movie reviews, which are also up on the Geeks Worldwide website as well. Affiliated with them for movie reviews and things like that. So next week, Joey, 150th show. How did we get this far? I don't know. You just do it, and then you give yourself an award. I'll make you something out of some pasta and an old trophy I got for Taekwondo. A little bit of saran wrap. That'd be great. Yeah. Perfect. We'll put something together. So 150th. Check out next week's show. We're going to have it comic book based. So we've got a lot of comic book creators on the show next week. I'm not going to spoil it for who now. You just have to tune in and find out. Thanks once again to my guests, Patrick Hinds-Gillian Pensavalle, and Dash Williams. Thank you to Joey V, as always, for getting us on and off the air, making everything sound so good. Until next week, my friends.
It's not in the way you watch iZombie. It's not in the way you watch The Flash. It's not in the way you love Scotty Young Art. It's not in the way you play Mario Kart. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Broadway. Good night.